Students, this is Kuna ma'am here. So today you are going to learn the lesson number 11, force and pressure. It is from class 8th. And in the previous video I taught all of you that force means what. With this picture I have cleared all these points. Then you have learned about the forces are due to the interaction. If there is an interaction between the two objects, then the force can come into play. Exploring forces also you have learned, and what are the effects of the force on an object. So that effects you learned. Which are those effects? So those effects are a force can make object to move from rest, force can stop moving object, force can change the speed, force can change the direction, and also can change shape of the object. So all these are the effects which you have learned in the previous session. Now today you are going to learn about the types of the forces. So my dear students, there are the two types of the forces are given here, contact forces and the non-contact forces. So these are the main two types of the forces, and this contact forces, from this word only you can understand there is a contact in between the objects. So now see, what is the contact force? The forces which are exerted by an object on another object. If there are the two objects, so in these two objects, one object exert force on another objects, means they are in contact with each other. For example, our muscular force or force of friction. Suppose you are going to lift up a bag or school bag, then there is a contact in between you and the school bag. So when you lift up the bag, you use your force, that is the muscular force. So the muscular force is example, or it is a type of the contact force. Here in the muscular force, the person, or if you take an example of a horse which is pulling a bullock, which is pulling a cart, then the horse and the cart, there is a contact in between these two objects. So this is the example of contact force, but from this contact force it is the example of muscular force, where the force of the human being or animal is used, that is called as muscular force here. Now force of friction. This is also a type of contact force. For example, when a car is moving on a road, and when a driver apply brake, then the car stops. At that time there is a force of friction, means the contact between the tires of the car and the road is there. So this is the contact force. So here in the contact force, there is a contact in between the two objects, means one object exert force on another object. This is a contact force. Non-contact force means there is no contact. From this word only we can understand without any contact. Two forces are there, or the forces exerted by one object on another without any contact. This is called as non-contact force. Means here also there are the two objects, but there is no contact in between the two objects. Means one object cannot exert pressure or force. One object cannot exert force on another object and with the contact. So this force can be exerted by on another object but without contact. So non-contact forces are of three types. Number 1, magnetic force, electrostatic force, and the third one is gravitational force. Now magnetic force, these are the three types of the non-contact force. Magnetic force means the force which is exerted by the magnet. For example, many times you have played with the magnet and the iron nail. If you take magnet near the iron nail without contact, then also iron nail get attracted towards the magnet. So this is example of magnetic force, where the magnet exert force on the nail but without contact. Electrostatic force, the example of electrostatic force, a good example, when you rub plastic comb on your hair, dry hair, and then when you take the plastic comb near the small pieces of the paper, and then immediately you can see all these small pieces of the paper get attracted towards the plastic comb. Means here this comb exert pressure on the pieces of the paper but they are not in contact. Without contact, it exerts the pressure, it exerts the force. Now gravitational force, the force which is exerted by the gravity or the earth. Now here you can see now contact forces, and good examples are given there with the pictures. Now see here in the first picture you can see a boy is riding a bicycle, and means this boy is using his body, his muscles, and by muscles of his body he exert the force on the bicycle, and bicycle starts moving. So here the objects are bicycle and the person, so they are in contact with each other. So here muscular force is shown. Again, if you see here in the second picture, there are the horses, and these two horses are pulling a cart. So these are the animals, and these animals are using their muscular force to pull the cart. Now these animal exert the force on this cart. So this is a good example of muscular force. Here also you can see the player, this player also using a muscular force, and this player as well as this camel, means this animal, all are using the force, means they are using the force, they are exerting the force on another object. So these are the example of muscular force. Not only these animals, you can see, even you have seen some donkeys, some elephants, some bullocks are there, which are using their muscular force to perform a different type of activities. Now force of friction. If you see in this picture, there is a ball which is rolling on the ground, and here is the here is a player, or here is a person who is riding a bicycle. So this is an example of force of friction, and this force of friction is nothing but it is the force which opposes the motion of an object over a surface. Now this bicycle is in motion, and if you see, this bicycle is in contact with the surface of the road. So this is the road, and here the bicycle's wheels are in contact with the surface of the road. So when the bicycle is in motion, at that time this surface of the road opposes the motion of the bicycle. It means this surface of the road exert a force on these wheels of the bicycles or tires of the bicycles, and this force opposes the motion of this bicycle. So this force is nothing but it is the force of friction. If you see this, now this is a also example of ball. When the ball starts rolling on the ground, after some time you have seen that rolling ball gradually slows down and comes into the rest position. Means at that time how the balls come into rest position, even we have not applied our muscular force to stop the ball which is in motion, but when the ball starts rolling over the surface of the ground, at that time slowly the ball speed get decreased, because at the same time the ground, here the ball and the ground is in contact. So when the ball is in motion, at that time this ground or the surface of the ground opposes, exert the pressure, exert the force on this ball, and this force opposes the motion of the ball, so ball come into rest. And here the example of bicycle, even many times you are riding a bicycle, when you stop the pedaling of the bicycle, at that time the bicycles become slow gradually, and after some time bicycle stops, because just due to the force of friction. So you have to understand that the force of friction, this force of friction opposes the motion of an object, and this force of friction is the good example of contact force. Non-contact force, here you see the magnet, and here the iron nails are there or steel nails are there. The magnets, if we hold the magnet above the nails, there is a gap here, but because of the magnetic force, when the magnet exert a force on the nail, this nail get attracted towards the magnet. So the magnetic force is the force exerted by a magnet. And here if we see in this diagram, there is a force of attraction and the force of repulsion also in between the two poles of the magnet. If you see, This is the N means North Pole and S means South Pole. So when the poles are opposite, they attract towards itself. And when the here also the force of attraction is seen, south and north, they attract towards itself. But when we take the similar poles, north and north, these two poles repel to each other. And here south and south also repels to each other. So force exerted by a magnet on a piece of iron or steel, and this force is known as magnetic force. And there is a force of attraction in between the opposite poles of the magnet, and the force of repulsion is there in between the similar poles of the magnet. Now electrostatic force. So what is the electrostatic force? You can see here, electrostatic force is the force exerted by a charged body on another charged body. If you see here, this is the this body is not charged, but this body is charged. So the electrostatic force it is nothing but the force exerted by a charged body on another charged body or uncharged body. Now how can we make a charged body? So here example is given: a plastic straw charged by rubbing with the paper attracts suspended plastic straw, and the plastic straw charged by rubbing with the paper repels a suspended plastic charged by rubbing with the paper. Now here I can say to all of you that a good example, when you rub a plastic comb on your dry hair, that time it becomes charged, and the small pieces of the paper, those are uncharged. When you take the plastic comb which is rubbed on your dry hair for few seconds, and that comb, when you take near the small pieces of the paper, small pieces of paper get attracted towards itself. Means when you rub, the comb get charged and it attracts uncharged board. Those are the pieces of the paper. Gravitational force. So gravitational force is the force exerted by the earth. Here you can see in this example, all the leaves of the tree, they are falling down. Here also whatever the object thrown high in the sky, those objects or that object is falling down. Here also the water in the river flows downwards. Here also water in the rivers flows downwards, and here the coin or pen falls down when it slips off your hand. Again, this one is example of kite. This kite which is flying over high in the sky also falls downwards. So a coin or a pen falls down when it slips off from your hand. Even you are drinking water with the glass tumbler, and suppose it gets slips from your hand, then definitely it falls down and broken into pieces. Now a ball thrown upward, when you throw ball upside, after some time it comes down. Leaves and fruits, all the from the plant, they falls on the ground only, and when they get detached, when they get separated from the plant, definitely they fall on the ground. Water from the river also flows downwards. Why all these showing the direction downwards? Because the gravitational force, who exert the gravitational force? Earth. And that gravitational force which was exerted by the earth on all object, that gravitational force pulls all the object towards the earth. So here these types you have learned. There are the two main types of the forces, that is the contact force and non-contact force, where the contact force are having subtypes muscular and force of friction, and non-contact force having the subtypes magnetic, electrostatics and gravitational force. So in this way you have learned all these type of forces. Thank you.